Good morning, folks. This is Todd Coburn with your Christian book reviews. This review is on this little book by Todd Coburn called Reflection of the Sun. Let's see what this book is all about. So to start with, you can learn a lot about this book by just looking at the cover. Reflection of the Sun. You can see this little mnemonic where we've got S-U-N, sun, reflection of the sun, and S-O-N, sun, reflection of the sun. That tells a bit about what this book is about. You'll notice that the chapters all have these clever little mnemonics, which are kind of insightful. Moon model, lunar lesson, sun source, light lacquer, righteous reflector, perfect positioning, and closing comments. So what does that all mean? Well, let's take a look. When we look at the moon model, we get a glimpse into the author's perspective as they notice something, an event of nature that draws deep insights into the Christian life and walk. We learn more about this in Lunar Lesson, where it talks about how the moon, being a reflector of the sun's light, how the moon reflects the sun's light and then creates light on earth. It's not as bright as the sun's, but when it's positioned correctly, it actually can have quite a pleasant light so that we can see and go about our business. The moon has no light of its own, and therefore, if the moon just were by itself, it would shine no light to earth. It's only by the combination of the reflective properties of the moon and the fact that it is positioned properly that it lights the earth in partial or complete fashion. This has some profound insights for the believer, which are discussed throughout the rest of the book. Chapter number 3 is called Sun Source. This chapter is about how the Son, Jesus Christ, is the source of light. Light for mankind, light for salvation, light to understanding God, light for living well and having a fulfilling life. It does not simply express the author's opinion. It walks through Scripture, the words of God Himself, to make the case for how Jesus Christ is the source of light, light of understanding, light of wisdom, light of knowledge, light of following God and of pleasing Him, light of salvation. This chapter lays that groundwork. This entire book is short and concise and to the point. And this is one of the largest chapters as we build up from Scripture exactly why Jesus Christ is the light for mankind. Then we get to the next chapter, chapter 4, Light Lacquer. This is about us, mankind. It's very popular and trendy now to talk about how light we are and how important our knowledge is and why our perspective is so good. Well, the fact is, mankind is a light lacquer, and without God, has nothing positive to add to anyone. It is only the properties of God, love and truth and perspective, that mankind becomes light-like. And in order to understand the moon's ability to shed light on earth, it first needs to recognize that the moon itself can't give any light. It's only by creating the properties of a reflector and positioning itself so it shines whatever the sun's light it has down to earth. And that's why the moon first must understand that its light capability is a direct function of the sun itself and how it relates to the sun. And this chapter, Light Lacquer, walks through Scripture to discuss how we are made from the dust of the earth and how we actually have nothing to offer in and of ourselves. It is only by understanding God, by reflecting His light, and by positioning ourselves that we can participate in God's lighting of mankind's knowledge and understanding. So this chapter is dedicated to demonstrating that we, in and of ourselves, have no light. Once we understand that Jesus Christ is the source of light and that we ourselves have no light capability of our own, we're ready for the next chapter, Righteous Reflector, talking about how we can make our lives more ready to project God's light, to reflect God's light. And there's some key principles also from Scripture that lay out how this can be done. Actually, a lot can be said on this, and this is just kind of an introduction into that whole concept of becoming a more righteous reflector. The next chapter is called Perfect Positioning, talking about how we can position ourselves as the moon must position itself so that it can reflect the sun, get as much of the sun on its face, and also project it to earth. In the same way, a Christian can take steps to position themselves so they're more able and ready to project God's light from their own fallen lives onto mankind. That's what this chapter is all about. Then we have a short chapter on closing comments that kind of ties it all together, and a little gift poem that I wrote to my grandmother, Reflection of the Sun. So that summarizes my book. So, however, if you like the idea and the topic and you want to walk through the scriptures to understand more fully why I've come to the conclusions I have that I expressed there, and a little more detail, you can purchase the book directly. You can buy it directly from Westbow, or you can use this QR code here to purchase it from Amazon. If you purchase on Amazon, I believe you're going to get a print-on-demand copy, which still looks good. But if you actually like an embossed cover, this is a nice embossed cover that I got on the original prints of these, then you'll need to go to my website, toddcoburn.com, go to the Reflection of the Sun subpage, and then you can order it there directly from me on PayPal. If you want me to autograph it as well, let me know, and that will give you a nice embossed cover. So I hope you enjoyed that content. I hope you enjoy the book. Enjoy.